6 months after the company unveiled the OnePlus 7 Pro, its most ambitious device yet, the new OnePlus 7T includes many of that device's best features in a trimmed-down, slightly cheaper package. The 7T feels like a response to fans who worried that the value-conscious brand had become distracted from its founding ethos about focusing on the basics and rejecting needless bells and whistles. Thankfully, the new model is a return to those OnePlus handsets of old, a device that meets or exceeds the status quo for flagship handsets, while sliding in several $100s cheaper than what you'd pay elsewhere. Stunning performance and a state-of-the-art display landed on our list of the best smartphones. However, if you're after a class-leading camera or pocketable design, OnePlus still might not be the brand for you. Design. On one hand, the OnePlus 7T resembles many of the Chinese firm's previous phones, particularly with its teardrop notch, tall footprint, and sloping 3D glass back. But then you notice the ginormous circular rear triple camera stack, and suddenly it's clear that you're looking at a new device. In typical OnePlus fashion, the fit and finish all around is superb, especially for what you're paying. The matte effect glass on the back feels great to the touch, and the new glacier blue color on offer feels so much classier and tasteful to my eyes than the nebula blue option that the OnePlus 7 Pro launched with. It's not only a pretty handset, but a functional one too. OnePlus remains one of the only phone makers that ships its devices with both a pre-applied screen protector and a high-quality clear TPU case right in the box. And yet, annoyingly, I still find my eyes repeatedly drawn to the OnePlus 7T's gigantic camera hump, and not in a positive way. For one, it's a bit obnoxious and gaudy, though I also worry about its durability. The camera housing occupies prominent space on the back, and that's simply more glass that can be cracked or scratched, poking out from the rest of the hardware. Yet again, I also find myself wishing that OnePlus would make a smaller phone for a change. The 7T's 6.55-inch display is just 0.2 of an inch smaller than the 7 Pro's. If the company has truly committed to a two-phone strategy, a cheaper device that is also more compact would make a lot of sense, and may broaden the range of appeal. The 7T might not be the largest phone in the world, but if you're coming from an iPhone XS, Galaxy S9, or Pixel 3, it will feel a bit unwieldy. OnePlus is taking a familiar stance with the 7T's water resistance, in that it technically isn't IP certified, even though the company assures buyers it will stand up to an impromptu dunk or splash. On one hand, I kind of understand the rationale. IP testing drives up prices, and besides it's not like IP-rated phones have water damage covered in their warranties. Display. OnePlus has a familiar refrain for the Fluid AMOLED display it introduced in the OnePlus 7 Pro earlier this year. Once you go 90 Hz, you can't go back. While I typically dismiss catchy marketing mottos, here's the thing, this particular boast is absolutely right. The 6.55-inch Full HD Plus panel inside the OnePlus 7T is not the brightest I've come across, nor the sharpest. However, it's easily my favorite I've used all year, because of that silky smooth refresh rate. It's hard to overstate the role animation plays in how our eyes and brains process responsiveness. Technically, it's not like the 7T is really any faster to use than most other premium phones you can buy today. But it truly feels like it is, thanks to that 90 Hz panel. Thumbing around Android is simply a livelier experience at 90 Hz. So too is gaming, for the few Android titles out there that can deliver higher frame rates. And that's to say nothing of the 7T's impressive HDR10 Plus color reproduction. Camera. The OnePlus 7T inherits the OnePlus 7 Pro's primary 48-megapixel sensor, as well as its 16-megapixel ultra-wide shooter. A 12-megapixel telephoto lens, capable of 2x zoom, rounds out the repertoire on the back. The same 16-megapixel front-facing camera, originally featured in the OnePlus 7 series, looks back at you from a notch, rather than a motorized, pop-out mechanism like on the Pro model. While I ultimately prefer the warmer, more realistic colors of the iPhone 11, that big 48-megapixel sensor still puts up an excellent fight here. And because the 7T uses a quad-Bayer filter, the phone is actually binning 4 neighboring megapixels together, for a 12-megapixel result that extracts more light out of your surroundings. That brings me to my favorite new feature on the 7T, the macro mode. Like you'd expect, macro mode helps you peer in on the smallest of details, allowing you to capture pictures close up that would be rendered a blurry mess on any other device. Unfortunately, I can't lavish the same praise on the 70's bokeh effect portraits. The Samsung S10 delivers cleaner details, more realistic color all around, and a brighter overall image. Finally, OnePlus's new and improved Nightscape mode does an admirable job. The 70's algorithms don't embolden edges unnaturally, in the same way the S10 does, which makes OnePlus's photos feel more lifelike and less stylized. That said, the 70 opts for a redder cast. Samsung's lighting is definitely more accurate in that respect, making it difficult to pick a winner. Ultimately, the OnePlus 7T isn't a total replacement for the likes of the iPhone 11, Galaxy S10, or other high-end camera phones that we've tested this year. But in many scenarios, I think it suffices as good enough, certainly for a phone that costs less than $600. Performance. Here's an unexpected discrepancy between the OnePlus 7T and 7 Pro. The newer, cheaper phone is actually faster than the latter model, because it packs Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 855 Plus processor. The differences between the standard 855 and Plus models are slight, yet quantifiable. Additionally, the Adreno 640 GPU on the 855 Plus is capable of 15% faster graphics rendering. The upshot of all of this is a phone primed for a superior gaming experience above all else. Sure enough, while I didn't notice a huge improvement playing PUBG Mobile, the 855 Plus and 8GB of RAM was more than adequate to run the Battle Royale shooter at the highest possible frame rate. Battery. The 3800 mAh battery inside the OnePlus 7T is 200 mAh smaller than what you get in the OnePlus 7 Pro. However, the OnePlus 7T recharges more quickly than either of its predecessors, thanks to the company's new Warp Charge 30T protocol. OnePlus refined the circuitry inside the phone's battery, and optimized the charging algorithm, to achieve faster speeds than previously possible. That means users should get to 70%, starting from 0, in just 30 minutes. In terms of battery life, the 7T lasted 8.5 hours in our battery test. Decent though that is, it is 1 hour less than the OnePlus 7 Pro, and 4 hours less than the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. And one more thing, in true OnePlus fashion, the 7T also has no provisions for wireless charging. The company's standard line against the feature in the past has been that it's just not speedy enough for a good user experience. Yet that has begun to change in recent years, as companies like Samsung and Google have found ways to push more power over induction coils, without damaging their devices. Software. OnePlus is touting more than 370 major and minor improvements in OxygenOS 10, which range from improved algorithms, enabling a speedier and more secure face unlock, as well as an expanded Zen mode, that allows users to essentially lock their phone for everything except calls and camera access, for up to an hour. OxygenOS 10 is based on Android 10, so you also get all the improvements there, including a more intuitive gesture navigation system, and smart reply and notifications for all chat apps. Verdict. The OnePlus 7 Pro might represent the pinnacle of the company's product line at the moment, but the OnePlus 7T is the one I reckon most people on the hunt for an affordable high-end device should buy. The 7 Pro's best feature, its 90Hz Fluid AMOLED display, is intact here, as well as its 48-megapixel main camera, and ultra-wide shooter. The 7T's processor is faster than that inside any other premium Android handset this year, save for Asus ROG Phone 2. The 7T's battery charges ludicrously quickly, and its computational photography, while not in the same class as Apple's or Google's, is still respectable for the price. And price is a big advantage. The 7T costs practically half what an iPhone 11 Pro goes for. You could certainly argue that the iPhone is a better device. But twice as good? Not a chance. I'm forever astounded by how OnePlus continually manages to undercut the competition by a significant margin, while producing phones that don't feel anywhere near as inexpensive as they cost. You'd expect corners to be cut somewhere, but between the 7T's meticulously crafted software, and feature-packed hardware, there's no catch, just the best flagship bargain of the year.